Welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. I, uh, where did I hear about you? Was it a conference? I bet it was probably some sort of a conference where I got your
Uh,
card. A lot of guests I don't.
Facebook group, actually. We're in a mutual Facebook group. We connected through there.
Yes, yes. Of all the ways you connect to people and you see them and you don't know where you heard about them. I just keep getting people on my show every day now. So, well, every day I try to get different people on my show if you get my drift. But anyway, you seem like a very interesting guy with all the stuff that you have on your Facebook page and also your Inner Coaching Academy site, Transformation and Success from the Inside Out, as the title says.
Mm.
How's about you start off by telling us your life story from a primary source perspective, who you are, what you experienced that caused you to do the stuff that you do, and I will shut up and put myself on mute. You've got the floor.
Yeah, thanks so much. And, I'm glad to be here. And I guess I'll just introduce myself. I'm Vince Bellitto. My primary focus and work as a coach is, trauma-informed coaching. I specialize in empowering people with a sense of radical self-love, the ability to bring radical self-love to everything and anything within them. I empower them with communication skills to help repair and enrich their relationships and give people the ability to break free from those really stubborn subconscious blocks within the mind, emotions, their body, their habits, so that they can effortlessly and effectively achieve their authentic goals and their authentic dreams. But well beyond that, my main goal is really to lead people into a direct experience of the truth of who they are at their core, something that I discovered in the year 2000 through a profound self-realization event. It was basically coming out of the background of a life of crime and drugs, where I nearly died from an overdose in 1999. And that was a moment where I decided I needed to turn my life around. I needed to make a decision to be someone other than what I was being. I didn't trust who I was. I didn't trust what I believed. I didn't trust what I know, because I almost got myself killed. I just cut off all associations to that lifestyle that I was living. And I began looking for answers and ways to create a new life. And that drove me to the library. It just seemed like a logical place to go, that I should read some books on other people's perspectives. I remember my cousin gave me a book called The Celestine Prophecy. And that was a book that really started my journey. I learned how to meditate, because that book speaks about meditating, concentrating on sending energy to plants. And so my relationship began with plants. I began to, focus on my rosemary and basil plant and trees and nature. And I would meditate and imagine sending energy to them. And it was just this way of connecting with nature. And in that book, it also mentions the importance of seeking a spiritual experience, or a union with the divine, in order to break free from what they were calling, what James Redfield, the author, was calling the four dramas. And this was like my first introduction to spiritual anything. And so that put a seed inside of me. I was like, yeah, I want to have that divine union. I want to be able to have that self-centered, meaning like sourced from within, that power source, where he was mentioning that we try to get energy from others. Selfishly, we drain each other through these dramas, these patterns that we enact. And it made sense to me. I was like, oh, I could see it everywhere in my life. And I saw like, wow, like I want to experience that power from within me. So that put the idea in my head that I could have an experience like that. I also found a book on Zen Buddhist meditation and began practicing that discipline, which is just sitting quietly, doing nothing in a particular posture. Posture is really important in Zen Buddhist practice. And that was a great foundation for me to learn how to sit correctly and just observe my breathing and just witness whatever was or whatever is actually in this moment of sitting. And it allowed me to attune to the present moment very powerfully. And that began to lead me into an awareness of my inner world. I became more attuned to what was going on within me. I was sobering up. I wasn't using drugs and alcohol to numb myself and, blast my mind into different spaces. So I was really starting to experience this inner world of me. And the memories of the past started to surface that were, shocks. They were like little horrific memories of my stepfather and my mother. He was very abusive to her. They were drinking all the time, and there was a lot of violence, and the pain, the emotion, the inner world stuff started to show up. So this was like back in the year 1999, the year 2000. And that was that's the foundation of who I am today and what I do today. I realized that discovering what was locked up within me was very important, and actually discharging and releasing and processing those experiences which were not ever processed properly. They happened and I just held them in my body and my emotions and my thoughts, and they were just repressed in the subconscious. Well, as they began to surface, it was very uncomfortable. But that was my introduction to the inner world of mind, emotions, and body, or the somatics, as I call it, the feelings and sensations within. Big part of what I do today in the work and how I help people to break free very rapidly. I've worked through those emotions in many different ways. And I also was still seeking passionately. I wanted to know if God was real. I had read a lot of other books I was reading a lot of religious texts from Hinduism, all kinds of different spiritual perspectives, Eastern philosophy. And, I was curious, I heard about things. I wasn't really interested in the Christian perspective at all. I wasn't interested in the Bible or the character Jesus. That didn't really appeal to me for whatever reason, but I was interested in absolute truth. Like, this idea got into me from a particular Zen Buddhist, that absolute truth could be encountered or known. And I was like, all right, that's what I want. What is absolute truth? And I was super intense about that. I would meditate and I would contemplate on that. And I was like in this inner asking of like, what is absolute truth? And somewhere later in the year 2000, I don't remember the exact date and time, I just know that I had this awakening. And all of a sudden, my awareness was no longer out there. It was just deeply inverted, like it was powerfully inverted. And it was as if I was staring down the very center of my spinal column. And it's hard to explain, but there was just suddenly an awareness of all this light, and it was brilliant. And I just fell to my knees, and I automatically exclaimed the words, Jesus Christ. And there was this awareness, this recognition of this beingness of this Jesus Christ. Like, Jesus, like, really is this living central axis of all existence, at my own, including all things and everyone, everywhere, for all time and all eternity. And it was shocking to me. And I was just amazed, and I was in awe. And I was stood up to my feet from being on my knees. And I was suddenly just experiencing myself in the fullness of God. And I was no longer a single man, an individual. I was this cosmic awareness of all beingness. And it was certainly the awareness of the eternal point of view. I didn't really have language at the time, but just, I've looked for words over these last 20 some years, 23 years now, to explain all of this. And it's just, there was just an awareness of the source of everything and everything's inclusion and origination from this awareness that I was having of the substance of life itself, which we call God, right? And so I was just fascinated by this. And as this began to fade a little bit, it was just echoing through my memory. And I was like, whoa, it was just wondrous to me, trying to understand what just happened. How did I become aware of this? I was telling people things like, we're all God. And people thought I was crazy because I was sharing so boldly about it. And then I got invited to a church. And it happened to be a Calvary Chapel in Fort Lauderdale. And if anyone's aware that there's a movie that's coming out, about to end out in the theaters now, called Jesus Revolution, but it's the story of how that church got started. But I went to this church. I was invited there. I'm like, yeah, I had this encounter with Jesus and God. I want to learn more what the church says. Well, I found that my experience was a little challenging for some of the people in the church to contemplate. And some people argued with me and threw Bibles at me that my experience wasn't really part of the Bible. So that drove me to want to learn the Bible. So I got into the Bible for now the 20 something years of being an intense student of the Bible, but also very fascinated and interested in other religious perspectives and how they work together, how they communicate about each other. And so I have a very unique perspective on that. But mainly my goal, my passion from that point forward is to help people experience what I experienced in that moment and how to help people get to that place. So that's a little bit about the background. My work today is, the trauma-informed coaching is to make sure that we lead people to completing any traumatic events they have, to get really past that, get past the mental, the emotional, the somatic components, and really live free from that internally, and also how to relate powerfully with people in their life. So all of that was born out of an experience like that and wanting to give people that experience, and then me just discovering all these different tools, processes, techniques, ways of being and relating that made that possible. So I know that's a lot. That's a huge amount of information, but thanks, Andrew, for giving me the chance to communicate it.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. And regarding letting go of the past, you brought that up, and it's one of the first things you say in your intro here on your Facebook page. Be empowered in a space you can release the past. And well, I guess I'll go with the other things later. But first of all, you got to release the past. But then again, let me just make it short, sweet, to the point. As Rafiki the Lion King once said, you can either run away from the past or learn from it. There's
Yeah.
so and then again, there's some people who claim that certain things happen in their life that ruined their life. But if you realize that everything happens for a reason, then maybe the thing that you think ruined your life was actually the thing that saved your life, if the point of view factor is applied. So
Yeah.
you're the coach. How do you make sense of all this?
That's really good. I'm so grateful you decided to dial in on this area. So the past painful experiences that I've been through have been the catalyst for my greatest powers, my greatest abilities. And it really is, dependent on the narrative that we decide to give regarding our past. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that the narrative isn't fixed. It's not written in stone. It's not complete in any sense. When we're a victim of it, we're resisting it, we're wishing it didn't happen, we're trying to get rid of it. The only way out of the past to really release it is to own it completely. But that's very difficult to do when the body mind of a human being is conditioned with all of the pain still. They haven't healed the painful experience in the body. There's a lot of confusion and conflict in the emotions. There's a lot of thought conflict. And so what I do is I first and foremost lead people to experience the truth of who they are at their core, which is that people become aware that, oh, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my emotions, I'm not my body, I'm not my memories, I'm not what happened to me or didn't happen to me. We give them this as an experience. It's not a concept, but they can actually, through a certain process or certain type of processes that we use, get that as an experience. They have this sudden ability to view the mind, emotions, the body, the memories, and then navigate that space from like a higher perspective. And there's a greater degree of power. There's a sense of love that's already present. And we teach them, me and my coaches, because I've trained coaches on how to do this as well, teach them how to embrace that past as much as they need to and integrate it rather than to repress it, keep it repressed. And so we don't necessarily dive into the past as like an intention. We first and foremost focus on the truth of who they are and give them that full embodied experience of love and centeredness, of pure being, pure awareness. And then we want to bring that past into view if it needs to come into view to be handled at the appropriate time. And so it's really wonderful to watch people do this because, I mean, I've done a lot of it because there's so much that happened in my world, but there's no amount of suppressing it, numbing it, medicating it, trying to avoid it or distract oneself. That's going to really give people the sense of power that they can derive from those painful events.
Yes, my secret weapon for letting go of the past is a little subliminal flashing thing that I was able to obtain. I believe I paid a fee for it, but I think it was definitely worth it to have subliminal messages flashing on your computer screen to get you to change your life around for the better. And subliminal stuff definitely does work. The Coca-Cola company was all about that regarding the movie theaters and the intermission and the Coca-Cola subliminal stuff. And yeah, we all know that story went. So it obviously works pretty well. By the way, do you have anything to say about subliminal messages and all that subliminal advertising for the sake of helping people? It does work. So is there
Yeah,
anything?
well, I'm a big, I'm very clear on the science of how the mind, the body, the nervous system, the brain basically is operating and functioning in the senses. I prefer a direct and empowered approach to transformation. I'm not a fan of hypnotherapy that doesn't have in trying to either implant a suggestion or idea on people. I don't think those are they can work, they can cause benefits, but I prefer that people, in my experience, the kind of people that I get to work with and what the results that I see them producing in their life, by directly handling themselves as a conscious being, I find that that gives way more degrees of power. Now, some people are looking for relief of things, and the subliminal messaging can be positive or negative, it definitely has an impact. It's just that the work that I do is more, like I said, it's about empowering the beingness of the individual and allowing them to see that, like, my mother received a punch so hard in her face that her nose flattened and broke. The very first abuse experience that I witnessed happened to her when I was only 10 years old. There's other events that I can face. I could tell you the whole story in detail, and my nervous system is at peace. There's no fear. There's no reaction. There's no hatred of my stepdad. There's no seeing my mom as a victim. I've been able to complete it powerfully. And to me, as long as we get to that place where I can be with whatever there was, then we are actually at a place of what we call completion. Like, it's complete, it's whole, it's part of the whole. And there's nothing bad or good about it. It's just what it was and what it wasn't. And there's a freedom that comes with that. So that's really my take on how to, handle those things. It's my preference of how to handle things. Subliminal tools can be useful. And I think there's a lot of tools that are useful. Like I said, my preference is to lead people through a conscious, direct, and empowered approach to handling things versus, like, subliminal would be like an unconscious way of handling something, right? Like, you're not really aware of what's going on. So I just have a different preference ultimately. But if people get relief, that always is something I'm for, right? If someone gets relief from something by whatever means that really is not toxic or detrimental, then absolutely I'm for that.
Cool. So, repairing relationships. Now, I mentioned relationships. I just asked the folks at numerologist.com to make me another artist work of my twin flame. I did have a picture of my soulmate, which I have above me in front of my computer screen here.
Mm.
And I'm probably going to put the picture of my twin flame, also both females, the soulmate and twin flame, below her. So regarding what you mean by a relationship and what exactly is the difference between soulmate and twin flame, if you can maybe perhaps get into that, and if your relationships, I hope to find my dream girl one day, but anyway, this isn't about me. This is about the world in general.
Sure.
If your relationships are falling apart, is it appropriate to, like, get out the astrology books and see what everybody's sign says, or is that, like, making things complicated?
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a lot. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, the first thing when I say repair and enrich relationships, it's any and all relationships. I work with parents and children, couples, friends, coworkers, companies. I mean, relationships can break down for a variety of reasons. And most of us have breakdowns in our relationship, but few of us know how to actually resolve those breakdowns, repair the intimacy that seems to have been lost. I specialize in teaching people how to first and foremost get complete with their own internal meaning and feelings around what happened in the relationship, like giving them relief from the resentment they might be carrying or the make wrong that they're perceiving, whatever happened, right? And then from there, teaching them how to get into communication and connect with the person and bring these things out into the open and restore intimacy in the relationship. So that's a major focus of what I do. We've got children that are alienated from their parents, and parents will come to me and, they hire me to, help their kid. Right. And a lot of times what I really need to do is I'm asking the parent if I could do some work with them first and find out if there's ways that maybe the parent has impacted the child's perception of reality of the parent. And usually there is. And I have to coach the parent on how to, handle and be responsible for what maybe the child might be experiencing or feeling that's keeping the child away from the parent, has them on drugs or whatever the issues might be. So that's a big part of the focus there. Now, when And I've been very successful at bridging those gaps between all kinds of people, really, especially in couples too. But when you talk about soulmate, twin flame, I've read a lot about all of that, and it's a big conversation for a lot of people. And there's varying. So I'm a more scientifically oriented person, even though I have profound spiritual experiences and awareness. I really prefer to bring solid science to the work that I do. And so I noticed that when it comes to soulmates and twin flames, there's a lot of varying definitions. And one of the things that in science we need concrete definitions that we agree upon that are, the meaning is not variable, it's solid. With soulmates, some people will define soulmates as like, that's the person you're really meant to be with. And some people will talk about twin flames as like, learning partners, right? Like high intensity relationship. And I see that that's the more common definition. There's other definitions that I've seen, but I'll just say those are the two that I see for soulmate. I say that, for me, the definition of the word soul, which coming from a biblical perspective, the word soul typically referenced the mind, the will, the emotions, the inner world of the person. The spirit was differentiated as the causal awareness unit of the soul. In other words, the soul was subject to spirit, right? And that's from a biblical point of view. And my own direct experience proves that there is a spiritual beingness, the I am causal awareness nature. And then there's mind, there's emotions, there's feelings and sensations in the body, there's actions, there's memories, which is part of mind. But there's this inner human part. And so I think that when it comes to relationship, what I'm most interested in for myself is a divinely appointed partnership. So some people, when referencing the soulmate, they're looking for people that match their personality, their human stuff, and that's cool too. And I think that's important. I think a divine relationship, a divine mate, would be one where you and that person have a purpose oriented towards the greater good of all. It's a divinely inspired, a divinely connected relationship. And I can see that distinction is one that I didn't have earlier on. So I have soulmates, girlfriends, and I've been married once. I've been engaged once to another girl. I've had the twin flame experience from the common definition that I've seen, where it's been very chaotic and high intensity, lots of healing happening through those very dramatic experiences with the twin flame. But I have ultimately found that for me, rather than getting caught up in the concepts of soulmate and twin flame, I'd rather understand how human beings actually work and how communication really works in relationship. And there are some critical factors on determining whether a relationship is actually healthy for you or not. And those are things I didn't know earlier on. I didn't know how to, I think starting a relationship from a place of authenticity, openness, vulnerability, willingness to share deeply and intimately, not getting into sex right away, are really critical and important factors. Because once we start to have sex with our partner, there is an exchange of chemistry, and there's a development of desire that starts to grow. And this person may not have been the best person to partner with. And I think a lot of people fail to understand how powerful sex really is. And I think we should approach relationship by first getting to know people on multiple levels, what they're up to, what their values are. Do we really share a common purpose in core values as best as we possibly can before moving too much into the sexual dynamic, which, I'm not saying in the past I've been an expert at that. In fact, I've done the opposite. I think I've made all the mistakes in relationship that anybody can make. And I've learned from that, and I see a new path for me and for people that I tend to work with. So I'll pause there. There's a lot more I could say, Andrew, but yeah, thank you for opening that arena up.
Right. And the last thing you mentioned on your Facebook thing is encountering God's love. Now, it seems like 2023 is the year that Atlas shrugged. The way things are falling apart at the rate now with the Trump indictment and all the train derailments and the chemical spills and and all that stuff. Who is John Galt and all that? Well, anyway, how can we expect to find love when there is so much chaos all around us? I mean,
Mm,
Sai Baba had said that when we see negativity happening in the world, that is the light. There's more light. There's bringing to light of the negativity. But because people can't handle the truth and the human heart is too tender, there seems to be a desire to slowly roll out things like technologies and such at a rate that um, won't shock the world into not living their lives normally. So, how do you make love happen and bring light without causing too much of a shock to the system? And how
mm.
can we speed up the awakening sooner rather than later? If I mean, how do you expect to wake up sooner rather than later if people are going to be thinking the human heart is too tender, we can't do that, and you get my drift.
Yeah, man, really good question. And I think demonstration is always much more powerful than explanation. So
By
I'll
the way, you got
actually,
8 minutes to
perfect.
finish this.
Yep.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll give a brief explanation and then I'll do a quick demonstration of a guided process that you could participate in, and anyone who's listening and can also participate in. So I agree that the world's chaos is a catalyst, and it can do one of two things. It can drive us into fear, or it could drive us closer to the greatest power in the universe, which we call God. The first and foremost is, looking for love in all the wrong places. Like most of us are looking for love in a partner. We're looking for love out there. We are love embodied. That's lost as an experience only because of our outward focus, our mental and emotional and somatic chaos as well, the conflicts within. But once those resolve internally, love is realized as always present. It always was and it always will be the center of my existence and the truth of who I am. But most of us identify as a mind-body system. And so that's where we get a little tangled up, and we get very focused on the world outside of us, which is even further from the inner awareness that we're looking for. So let me just do a little quick process and just like a guided meditation to just be able to see and sense and feel this for yourself. So if you're willing to just participate, close your eyes and just start to feel into your body, become aware of your breathing. Simply notice the breath coming in through your nose and out through your nose. You're not doing the breath, you're just observing the breath. We're just going to allow the breath to flow, let the body relax, let the shoulders, neck, face, and head soften. Let the lower body, chest, and the abdomen, and hips and groin, legs, all just start to soften. And just be for a moment. Just allow things to be as they are. There's nothing to do. There's nothing that you need to fix or change. Simply allow this moment to be just as it is. Letting the body go, letting the body rest from all of its effort and all of its striving. Just for now, being still, or allowing stillness to come about by not engaging the mind or the body too much at all. Simply be the observer of what is in this moment and allow it all to be here. Let's take a nice deep breath all together through the nose in, and then through the mouth, let it out quickly. We'll do two more just like that. Through the nose in, through the mouth out quickly. Through the nose in, through the mouth quickly out. Now take a really big breath in and hold this breath at the top. And just hold that breath in, relaxing the body. And swallow your saliva. Just be still. Keep holding the breath. Feel the saliva run down to the belly. Make your lips into a tiny pinhole. Slowly release the air. Just let go of all that is and simply be the awareness of this moment. Notice the calm, the peace, the stillness, this perfect being that you already are at your core, where all is well and all is good, and love is what you are. Just allow yourself to be this love. Love is already here, present. Love is not something you do. Love is the nature of your very being. Relax into this love a little bit more. Let love be here. Let yourself be love. Let the heart space open a little bit more. Allow a little bit more love in to the body, the mind. And let's bring the right hand to the heart, left hand to the lower abdomen as a gesture of love and compassion for the body. Just feeling that hand on the heart, the other hand on the lower abdomen. Welcoming a little bit more love into the body and into the mind. Letting the body-mind open and receive love from within. Love is at the center of being, and you can relax into it. You can draw from it this presence of God, this presence of love. You always have a direct line of connection simply by resting and relaxing and turning inward and communing with this love, this living God that is your life. This love knows that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken about you. There's nothing to fix. You already are whole and complete and secure in this love. So just allow that. Sink in a little bit deeper. And let's take a breath together through the nose in, through the mouth out. Nose in, mouth out. Nose in, mouth out. Take a really big breath in and hold again. And just feel that breath held. Relax the body. Soak in the love a little bit more. Swallow the saliva like swallowing a seed of love, and it's going to plant down into the belly. Keep holding the breath if you can. Good. And make your lips no tiny pinhole. Slowly let the love flow through your lips. Very exhale. Very slowly exhale. And just abide and be the love that you are. Just be. Good. So I recommend listening again to this process multiple times over, because it will start to develop the habit of simply being the love that you already are. Rather than what most of us are doing on a day-to-day basis is we're out there searching for love, seeking for love in so many people, places, and things, activities. Love is the essence of who and what you truly are. And when you pause from the busyness of the mind, emotions, and body activity, you simply turn within and you bring awareness to that awareness that you are, there is this sense of peace and calm and love that opens up right there inside of you. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to share this with you. It's a joy, it's an honor, it's a pleasure. My name is Vince Bellitto, and you can find me on Facebook. You can find me at the innercoachingacademy.com. That's my website. And I highly recommend you connect with me on Facebook. Find me there. I do a lot of live streams. I also have a Facebook group called the Invincible Living Community. You can search for that Facebook group. It's free to join, the Invincible Living Community. And we do a live stream every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. There's a lot of great content and information there. more practices and processes like this. So really grateful for the opportunity to be here. Andrew, I thank you for allowing me to be here. And yeah, it's wonderful.